Now, before we begin our next story, I want you to imagine a situation. You're in a coffee shop. Your beverage has just arrived and you're reaching out for sweeteners. There's sugar, both white and brown, and there's artificial sweetener. If you're a health watcher, which one will you pick? I'm guessing the artificial sweetener. It helps you check your weight. It also keeps you away from diabetes, or so most of us have believed. Now a study says both these claims are false. Some artificial sweeteners increase the risk of diabetes. They also make you gain weight in the long run. I understand it's a bitter pill to swallow after all these years of picking artificial sweeteners as the healthy option. So let's deal with the basics first. What are artificial sweeteners? They are synthetic sugar substitutes. They do the job of sugar and they do it better. They're many times sweeter than sugar, which means you use very small amounts to get the desired sweetness. And that's not even the best part. Artificial sweeteners do not add to your calorie count. They have 0 calories. Sweet innovation, isn't it? People love artificial sweeteners. Their market size is more than $7 billion. By 2027, the number is expected to touch $9.7 billion. The market is booming courtesy increased awareness and health consciousness. Here's a study from 2017. It found that almost 42% of American adults consume artificial sweeteners. So do over 25% of American children. Given the study was conducted in 2017, you can safely assume the numbers have gone up. What about India? Here, artificial sweeteners are considered a luxury. One estimate says that only 2% of the mid-income groups consume them, as opposed to 70% of the high-income group. The sachets, however, are found in almost all upscale coffee shops and restaurants. You must have seen people carrying their own little boxes too. For years, these have been endorsed as a substitute for sugar. But here's the thing. What's calorie-free is not necessarily diabetes-free and fitness-friendly. You see, artificial sweeteners are essentially chemicals like saccharin and sucralose. Researchers studied them, and they tracked their effect on 120 healthy adults. You know what they found? Saccharin and sucralose affect a person's glucose tolerance. What is glucose tolerance? It is the body's ability to clear glucose from the bloodstream and then turn it into muscle and fat. Glucose intolerance is when your body is not able to do that job. When it fails to clear the glucose from your bloodstream, what happens next? There is an increase in the glucose levels in your blood, and that's what we call high blood sugar. Glucose intolerance can make you diabetic. It can also make you gain weight. So basically, artificial sweeteners create the very problems they promise to avoid. Now, you're free to write this study off, call it a one-off, or question its vested interests. You should always do that with studies. But I must also remind you that similar studies have been conducted in the past. Like this one from 2014, researchers exposed mice to artificial sweeteners. Guess what they found? Glucose intolerance and obesity. Another study in 2014 found that artificial sweeteners often prank our brains. Our brain ends up craving more junk. And like you all know, the more you consume junk, the more weight you put on, and the higher your risk of diabetes. Does this mean you stop consuming artificial sweeteners? Well, studies say you should. We say you must ask your doctor. Also, will stopping now reverse the damage done? On this count, we have good news. The answer is yes. Stopping artificial sweeteners, the use of them, can reverse the damage to your gut. In other words, you can act now. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.